This is money we've already committed to and basically spent, we just haven't paid it yet, but it's coming. Okay, thank you, Lorraine. Ed, discussion F, facility summer projects.
This is an update of the projects we're doing this summer. I'll go through them briefly here. If you have any questions, please stop me and you have a question. Roofing, Delray and OIS, the exterior breezeway is being re-roofed. They're about 90% done on that project. Wagner Ranch, we re-roofed all of the building roofs except for the gymnasium, and they are complete there. We went for a light roof there instead of the dark brown, so we should get some temperature benefits out of that inside the classroom, hopefully. The restroom projects are...
So if I know you barely started in. Any surprises on the roofing, anything worse than we expected once we started tearing stuff off, or better than we expected, or?
A lot better than we expected at Wagner Ranch. Delray had quite a bit of dry rot, but we knew it. Sleepy Hollow had a lot less dry rot on the top.
And at Wagner, was that where we peeled 3 layers, 3 old roofs?
Yeah, we went down on the plywood there.
And this roof, we expect to last how long?
I guess about 20 years, 25. We usually rated for 30, but maintenance guys up there, kids up there, they don't get quite the longevity as your home roof does.
Sorry.
Unsanctioned.
High school, non-school day.
Yeah, skateboarding on the roofs. The restroom projects, they're going very good. We're doing upgrades on.
And is Delray just cut off from that? I mean, they were...
We didn't do Delray this year. We just couldn't fit them all in. Couldn't do it, especially when we added Sleepy Hollow. But I promise Steve will do it next year. His restrooms are in the best shape. They look beautiful. So the restrooms, we're doing partitions and tile paint, and maintenance is putting lighting in right now.
So what'd you end up doing on lighting?
T8 Larson, electronic box.
Did you have to pull
No new
power
wire.
to it?
No.
Because it's all, it was there.
Right.
Great.
We found some discoveries at Glorietta in that school that were a little worrisome, but we're working on it. They just had bare wire running through the attic, pipe running, so fixing that as we go. Other than that, it's coming along pretty good. The color scheme is a white tile with accents of a light blue and light yellow splattered out. It looks pretty good with a light brown floor tile. It should be easy to take care of for the facility staff. And those projects are about 95% done. Retaining wall projects. We talked about the one Glorietta. And we also have the small one on the hillside of Wagner Ranch, which is completed. That was to keep the hillside from washing the main water line off the hillside, like they have in the past. Our paving projects are going pretty good. We're about 90% complete on those. We did paving at all the sites except Glorietta because there's just too much going on at Glorietta this year. So next year we'll be back. They're looking good. They're also restriping everything. They've repaved over, so it's pretty good. The hillside repair at Glorietta is going well. They're supposed to be done with the real heavy equipment this Thursday. And then after that, all I have to do is groom the hill and put in the new V-hitch drainage ditch. And we should be done.
So at Glorietta, I was up there this weekend. Is that all our property? That's amazing.
And all the way up the hill.
Wow.
And on that, I guess I will add for public consumption, I know you've been copied on this, but a lot of the public wanted more clarity on what was going on there. So maybe when we have, hopefully not future slide repair projects in it, but if we do, to make sure we notify neighbors.
We did a fan replacement in the library at Wagner Ranch. I put 12-foot, but it's actually a 14-foot diameter fan in there now in the library. It's beautiful, it really moves some air. It's super quiet, unbelievable quiet. It doesn't throw the paper off the top of the desk like we're worried about. It moves the pages automatically. So it should be a big difference for people in that hot library at high school. We're also doing preventative maintenance throughout the district. We're changing all the HVAC filters and vacuuming all the systems out as we normally do. Mark's a little bit behind because he's been chasing irrigation repairs after the paving contractors hit our information and local schools. Painting. We did a lot of painting this year. We did the exterior 3 portables at Glorietta. We did the lower playground striping at Glorietta. 3 exterior classroom doors. 90% of all the exterior doors have been painted at Sleepy Hollow. They were in really bad shape there. The K1 restroom at Sleepy Hollow was also had dry rot repair and painted. Playground striping was done on the lower field there. The benches throughout the campus were painted. And then at Delray, the exterior office building was painted. The exterior wing 2 was painted. The interior of the staff room was painted. And the interior of room 22, along with 3 exterior doors on campus there as well. At OIS, we did the interior conference room that was demoed this year from an office and turned into a, or maybe it was demoed as an office and turned into a conference room. I don't know if Michael's going to use it for you. Give us the final say so. We also painted the lower playground striping, and that was all done by the district. Delray, we installed the tack board in the kindergarten on the walls. We made the move to here. We moved here, we disconnected everything at the temporary office, brought it over here and reconnected everything. They did the locks and the keys for everybody. We've done perimeter fencing, signage. And at OAS, we did, there's a 3-inch main irrigation line that goes to the lower field, which when they pulled the tree roots out from the upper parking lot, we found that 3-inch line was only about 6 inches underground and through all the roots over the last 30 years. So we've chased that down the hill. I think we've replaced it in 5 different places now. Hopefully today is the last one. Test it tomorrow. At Sleepy Hollow, we removed a short fence behind the principal's office for the principal. At Delray, we removed a section of chain link fence for contractors. Fabricated and installed a swing gate between the portables. We replaced a lot of exterior wooden door with a metal door and a continuous season in room 5. And that was part of that item we had on the priority list. We had all those doors listed. And that door was bad. There's a lot of that we can kick your foot through the bottom. We moved a storage shed at Glorietta for the contractor in the kindergarten. Cleared the fence line at Delray of shrubs and trees out in the, as you're looking at the school to the left of the parking lot. The neighbor there has to replace a fence there, so it was a good time to clear all the shrubs and brush and we have been accumulating over the years. We troubleshot the fire alarm system and reprogrammed the main panel at Glorietta. And we replaced the main fire alarm panel with OIS. And the 3 things I left off that list was at all sites the custodial staff and deep clean throughout the schools. We did, and let's see, grounds work and trimming, pruning, and weed control, fertilizing, irrigation repair at all sites. That's it.
questions from the board?
Ed, it's quite an end of the school year, quite a summer, and I just want to express my appreciation for the job you've done, but also especially your staff. It's a ton of work done by district staff. Everything here that's listed, done by maintenance, is work that's not done by contractors. And I know you have a great staff that knows our facilities inside and out, as well as site custodians. So I just want to express my appreciation for, again, your work, but also especially all your staff, including custodians. My only comment, we haven't talked about it in a long time, is I think the school fields are in horrible shape. And I don't know where that money comes from. I know how expensive school fields are, but I just think it'd be something worth talking about. I'd be curious to hear what, I forget the name of the company that's, I can picture their logo, that's done a lot of work for the city and for the school district when we need help with our fields. I just see our fields getting worse and worse and worse, and I know that we've starved the facility staff of dollars to do anything significant about it. You know, short of rototilling, killing them, laying down new dirt, then rolling sod or seeding, and we're talking about probably millions of dollars. But I'd be curious to know, kind of the state of our fields at our 5 school sites and what it would cost. Maybe we could knock one out every 3 years, or I just think, it's just driving by Glorietta. I've been at Wagner recently. I was at a soccer game a couple weeks ago. I don't think our fields are up to par with what we should be providing our kids. And if we decide it's not a priority, I understand it, but I think it's something we should look at. Specifically, I'm talking about, just turf.
Did that ever come up in task force?
No, I don't think so.
Or is that just not-
I don't think so. It just didn't seem like it was part of the scope. I think we were really focused on kind of
Right,
hard
in the
facilities.
buildings
Yeah.
area.
Well, I guess OIS came up, just the track area, future potential of doing
Oh,
something like
yeah.
that came.
Yeah.
That's the only idea that was floated in here.
Well, I know that, that Glorietta, that upper playground, or that upper field in Glorietta, I can't even believe, I'm not there, but do kids play on that upper field? That's.
Well, I was gonna bring up, Matt brought up a great point. That field is really dangerous because the gopher holes have collapsed, and it's not just an uneven field, there's pretty large holes throughout that field. It may be like that throughout the district, but the one at Glorietta is dangerous. I said there's caution tape should be put up, kids shouldn't be able to play there until it's fixed.
The upper one is.
It's a liability for the district.
Any other comments from the public on this item? Okay, and any further discussion? I think that is a good thought, but again, that's not, something that we've done, but something that we should, future agenda items, be good.
Okay.
I guess one thing that anyone else is interested as well, but understanding kind of what you're tackling next in terms of if there are projects that are gonna be trying to finagle in during the school year or, winter break or whenever. It'd be good to have some visibility to that too, just so we know what's coming up.
One thought on that, Chris, was I was wondering if Ed or staff finds time. I'm specifically picturing those old rotted wooden doors at Del Rey from our site visit. Ed had mentioned he was able to replace one of them. I was wondering if that's something a couple could be done at winter break, or be nice just if we could knock those down one at a time, because they're pretty bad.
Are there anything, any projects that are kind of planned already for the next few months?
We are gonna do some of those doors in the next break. The playground at Glorietta is gonna be probably next summer. Cause I don't think they can get it done in that short winter break time. But that's definitely on the list.
Any stairway bathrooms?
Might be able to get one or two done in that short time. I can look into that.
I just want to caution us here, we're kind of we're into another agenda item, and Ed and I haven't had a chance to go through these future projects yet, so we aren't really prepared tonight to comment on really what's coming up next yet. Some of these things are still in place, so we should really bring that kind of item back and.
So thank you, Ed, for the jobs well done. And we'll look forward to more work in the future. So Kathy,
Chair.
we have a few items to go through. So first of all, item G, academic standards.
Yes, so I have some policies before you. I have about 7. I will stand for the first one to speak, if I need to sit at any time, but I'll continue through this. So the first 5 policies are really aligned to the shift in the Common Core standards and the state assessment system. And Board Policy 6011, academic standards, is being brought forward as a first reading for revision to reflect the practice that has taken place over the past few years since there was an adoption in August 2010 by the State Board of Education for shifting to Common Core state standards. So the revisions to this policy really focus on what is taking place and what would take place to prepare students instructionally for English language arts and mathematics. That's where the Common Core standards are focused. And it also talks about communication with parents. It emphasizes that, about how students are progressing, and that we will be communicating those expectations to parents.
Questions from the board on this policy?
Where did we get this policy language? Is that,
From CSBA.
did we revise it at all, or was
I pulled exactly what was in CSBA. Primarily, I did, where you see, thank you for asking, Julie, on the first page where it talks about the current California Common Core state standard, that was in a notation, and I added that in. I also reviewed other districts who have adopted this policy just to get some clarifying language to make sure we were on the right track.
And one thing that I thought of, I really liked a lot of it, how it talked about, the board policy that it's including professional development, sort of shall receive professional development. And I like the flexibility language on the second page. The flexibility of language included in there for staff, and how they to determine the best instructional methods, for example, at the bottom of the page there. One thing that I was thinking about when I was reading through it was, does it include anything that would, since we're a K district, that sort of includes, the thought that, that we're still thinking about how this all ties into as the kids go into high school and articulation with that. And do you think there's any need for any language like that to be included? Like on the first page in that last paragraph, shall ensure the proper articulation and standards between grade levels and among schools. What came up in my mind was, yes, and also from middle school to high school.
It can certainly be emphasized, the inclusion on the first page of all of the subject areas. Some of the subjects we we touch on, but they are more high school
Mhm.
subjects, was where, you know, I kept all of the language that was in CSBA, just
Mhm.
not knowing how we would be proceeding in the future, but I wanted to not delete those if, even if they were a high school focus or if it was preschool.
Mhm.
So when you're, I guess, are you asking if we should add in something regarding on the last paragraph, shall ensure the proper articulation of standards between grade levels and among schools?
Well, and that could include all grade levels. It was just something that in my mind came up that I would want to make sure that, you know, that we didn't stop at 8th grade, that, you know, thinking about what we're teaching them now and how that impacts what they're taking in high school and what they're, you know, in that, using the term articulation, because I'm not an expert, but, you know, and just making sure that that was included. So it kind of is, because it's, you know, fairly broad language. It's just something that, you know, in my mind, I wanted to make sure that we are always keeping, you know, where we're heading, you know, where these kids are heading next, you know, in mind. So I just wanted to see what you thought about that. That was my only question or comment.
Questions from the board? Any comments in public on this item? Any further discussion from the board? Yeah, I mean, I think that's an easy add. If you can see the way another K-8 or TK-8 district might, because obviously we need to hand our kids off, and we obviously do that anyway. We coordinate with Miramani and Kakalani's district, but to overtly state that, I think that may be something we can consider. Any other discussion on this item? Okay, next is Board Policy AR 6162.51, State Academic Achievement Test.
This board policy actually has several changes to reflect the transition of the state assessment system. Even the title of the policy has been changed from Standardized Testing and Reporting Program, which was STAR, to the State Academic Achievement Tests. In this policy, by making these revisions, it allows us to be current and also inform and support what we are doing now to prepare for the new state assessment. It actually names the state assessment, which is the California Assessment of Student Performance and Progress. It finally settled on a name, so we call it GASP. And so it also aligns, as all these policies do, with reference to the local control accountability plan, that we are accountable and that there will be reporting of results as well. The administrative regulations of this policy replace a lot of language, but really outline how we would proceed with the task testing. We will be continuing, as far as we know right now, with the science testing of the content standards test. So that is still included here. I did add in and include the note from the CSB policy in here, just to, you know, we'll see what is changed. And so that page, that would be on page 142. So under item 2, I've included the notation that eventually there will be a new test for science, but it hasn't been developed yet.
So I really liked the change on the top of page 140, where it talks about the state assessment being one measure of the district's progress in attaining student achievement goals. I like that. Pointing that out. On the administrative regulation, I had a couple of questions on page 142. So for number 2, where it says California standards tests in science in grades 5, 8, and 10, should we have to include the N10 if we
No.
don't have that?
No, we don't.
So we can take that out.
Okay.
And then the other thing that I noticed is you have, like under the number 1 on that page, the smarter balanced, the English language arts section, you have the B, students with disabilities may be provided an alternate test in accordance with their IEP. Should we have the same? Should we have the same language under number 2 for the science test? I know we have like the 3rd section that sort of seems to reference that it would apply, so I was wondering, you know, I guess I was just maybe should have told about this, but, you know what I'm saying? It seems to me that if students with IEPs have the same rights to have modifications to the test, that maybe that B language should be repeated under section 2. Do you understand what
Yes, I do.
I'm saying? And I don't know if I'm right, it just seems like it would be, and then you have 3, which kind of talks about students with disabilities and references items 1 and 2.
So we would add what's under
So it would be like a
1B,
2A.
under 2.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
Yes.
What was that?
Do alternate tests exist for, I guess no test exists for science, but for the English and math, does an alternate test exist, or how does that?
Actually, what exists are it's a universal accommodations, and there's different levels within taking the computer adaptive test. So, based on what's in the IEP, the students may have specific modifications or accommodations, larger print on the screen, highlighting, and so our special ed team will be going through the IEPs, knowing what those universal accommodations or modifications might be, and check them. But when we were doing the field test, it seemed that a lot of that was already taken place, put into an accommodation universally, as stated.
Any comments from the public on this item? Any further discussion or thoughts on academic achievement tests, CAS?
A lot of letters.
Okay, thanks for that, Catherine. And next is the reading and language instruction policy.
So this policy, again, follows suit with the other 2 policies. The language in this policy is being revised to reflect the Common Core standards for English language arts and our district practice for how we are proceeding with the implementation of the new Common Core state standards. What this policy does is it describes how the Common Core standards are broken down in strands, and it lists them. It also emphasizes that we will be looking at materials that do align with standards, the Common Core standards specifically. And it is actually a policy that in the work that this district and the teachers have done with Columbia over the past 7 years now, I believe it is, that a foundation has really been put into place for addressing all of these areas in English language arts. It's been really exciting to see how teachers have grasped and taken hold of the Common Core standards, but I know that it's been a lot of hard work over the years for them to accomplish that. And this policy reflects that practice.
Questions on this policy? Any comments from the public on this item?
Charles Shannon, OEM president. I just want to comment that there's quite a few teachers, especially the 4th and 5th upper grade teachers and also teachers at ORS, that have been talking about the challenges of reading all of these assessments to get the sum of information to provide a real clear picture of what what they need to do to help our students. That's still something I think that we need to work on, because I still see that as an area where there isn't enough time and there's a lot of assessments to go over. And we don't just do it once a year, we do it every trimester. Well, take that back, and at Glorietta, or at the elementary schools, we do it twice a year. I think it's twice, it could be 3 times a year, if I'm not being mistaken. But it's a lot of work for upper grade teachers and our OS teachers, so I'd like to work with you, Kathy, and the curriculum committee to see what we can do to provide some help for the teachers.
Any other comments from the?
Yeah, I just like to,
There you go.
just like to be in the background.
Any other comments from the public on this item? Any further discussion on the board on this policy? Okay. So next is mathematics instruction.
Okay, similar to the previous policies, this policy outlines the Common Core standards and actually the mathematical practices that are part of the new frameworks for implementing mathematics in the schools. It really lays out that we are striving to meet the standards and also recognizing in our district that we have students who may exceed or go deeper. And so on page 155, the policy lays out the 8 mathematical practices that all students, regardless of what grade they're in, and that would include grade K to 12, will be working on. It's the habits of study and habits of mathematics. And then it explains on that same page below that there are the content standards that are at the grade level appropriate levels, and then includes the higher mathematics component that we would pay attention to. So this policy, again, revises the previous language that was aligned to the former standards and it reflects the Common Core standards.
Questions on this policy?
The one thing I think we need to really be careful of in the math area, how it's being applied in the classroom, and that it's not sort of tortured application of it as teachers go along. That's not the policy issue as much. But one thing that I was wondering, would it be appropriate for us to have something in here that includes a commitment, as a board policy, a commitment to ensure that students, if they're able, have some ability, will have the ability to, take courses that would put them in line with taking calculus in high school. I mean, is that, I know you have the list where it includes algebra and geometry, as things that the district shall offer, so that might again, be sufficient. This is something that, you know, I think in a community that, you know, has sort of an expectation that students, if they're capable and able, and I don't know what high school is ultimately going to end up doing, but, you know, I want to make sure that students coming through our schools have the ability to take as high of a math as possible when they're in high school, and I don't want, and, you know, I think that's important, you know, to be part of the policy, and I don't know how others feel with that, something that we can add in.
I agree with you, Julie. That's obviously, not obviously, but it's been one of my main concerns. It seems something that was really highlighted when Common Core came out for our district, is that the potential for dumbing down math and the inability of kids that come out of our district to get to Calc BC at Miramonte for those kids that really have high achievement levels in mathematics. And that's my major concern with Common Core implementation. So I don't know what language could be added. I'd be open to looking at any language, but I think more importantly, the principle that every kid that has the aptitude or the desire or the ability to reach as high as possible in math has the opportunity. You know, I've heard on more than one occasion from people in Orinda that they want to see that we continue to raise the bar in public education. And on some levels, I think Common Core is raising the bar for a certain segment of students, but not necessarily for students that need.
Well, and I think the meet, or exceed language is probably partly intended to address that. I just, you know, I personally agree with you that I think it's important that, you know, I think it's important for us as a board, if we agree to, you know, reflect in our policy that we're committed to making sure that those kids who can get there can take as high level of math as is available in the high school. Maybe that's some way it could be phrased so that you're not having to change it every time the high school district is changing their math offerings.
You know, traditionally at OAS, 30 kids or less, usually around 30 kids end up taking geometry in 8th grade. And those kids tend to be tracked at Calc BC through junior year of Vermont.
Right, but the kids who are taking algebra were also tracking through Calc BC as seniors.
Yeah.
Right, and they just took algebra.
Right.
So I just want to make sure that those, that
I
the
agree.
kids, you know, and that's not 30 kids.
Right.
You know,
I
that's
agree.
a substantial number of kids.
So I think it'd be great if our policy reflected that, if we agree.
Questions from the public on the site? Comments from the public, sorry? Okay. Okay, another discussion from the board. I mean, I guess I hear what both Matt and Julie are saying. I haven't thought about it more than since you've been talking, but I have a hard time conceptualizing what we put down in the board policy that isn't just fluffy and actually means something, because I mean, we don't obviously control what the high school district offers. We don't control, you know, how they get there. I mean, so.
I guess I'm trying to ensure that there are accelerated pathways available to students in
And I want that,
our schools.
I want that too, but how do you, I don't know, maybe we can give that more thought about what that means, or maybe Kathy can give that more thought on what that means, but, I mean, if I guess I just don't understand.
And I
don't
think
know
this
what that
policy
policy.
seems to be the place where something like that would be, and it's, you know, I mean, I guess you could arguably say it's sort of in here, but I don't know, I would like something more.
But even if it's said in here, you know, we shall provide an opportunity for, you know, every student, you know, graduating from 8th grade would have the opportunity to reach the level of Calc BC at high school level. I'm not sure what
Right, and I don't
I'm
think
not
you
sure what that
phrase
means,
it like that.
because,
Well,
you could say, I mean, we could offer this amount of math, and then we could say, oh, but it's the high school, it's up to the high school to offer that, the rest of it, all the way up. I'm not sure where you draw your board policy line that actually has meaning to it, that,
but there are, you know, the accelerated pathways under the Common Core that's been kind of laid out, and so we could, I mean, I'm sure there's a way to frame it that, you know, include something that would indicate somehow that, you know, that some kids could end up on this path. You know, I mean, like I said, it's not like I thought this completely. I just think that that's something that's important to me, and you know, personally, I think it would be important for us to lay that out there for people to know that we're committed to that. And I don't know what the language would look like.
So-
That's some thought.
So my thought on it, as I read all these and then kind of jumped back. The promotion, retention, acceleration, seems like that should be maybe highlighted under the Common Core standards, because while that's, or maybe that's where the language gets embedded, because while it says acceleration by grade level, math is the one, I think, well, language can be as well, but where people are able to accelerate, stay within their grade, and still accelerate with a particular subject matter. So it's kind of unique that way.
I looked at that as just skipping a grade, or, I mean, we're not on that
Well,
policy,
no, but I mean, in terms of how to address
And I hear what you're
acceleration, because
saying.
that's in essence how, like, if someone comes in with a verse knowledge of language, you know, they jump right into ahead of the curve on Spanish or French or German or whatever it might be, right, in some cases.
Well, maybe, I mean, do we have like a consensus that we want to try to figure something out, and then we could, you know, leave it at that?
I'm fine with that, I mean,
So with that consensus, why don't you let us work with some options,
yeah.
and we'll bring it back. We'll bring it back.
Yeah.
Okay, and then on to promotion, acceleration, retention.
So the board policy for 5123 is before you to be revised. Most important, as in some of the other policies, we're removing the tier 3 cautionary note from these policies as they come forward. A minor point that TK has been added in here, and that really when we're looking at the criteria for promotion, acceleration, or retention, that we no longer have the STAR results, that we have the state assessments. We also have in this district, especially in mathematics, the unit assessments that are being used as well. That wasn't listed before, so that has been added. And just some clarifying language has also been included to support that. But primarily this was just outlining some criteria that would be used, and that the teacher may recommend a student for the acceleration as well. So it makes us current by bringing this policy forward.
Questions on this policy?
Why at the bottom of page 159 is the word teacher bolded and underlined?
In the CSBA policy, it does outline that the teacher may do the recommendation. We have the superintendent or designee. And one could argue that the designee could be the teacher, but the teacher is really the responsible one for assessing students and really being able to make that determination.
Is it bolded or underlined to exclude other people, whether that be a superintendent, a designee, a parent, a principal? Okay, thank you.
I think bold and underline just represents an add.
Showing the change.
Okay.
Any comments from public on this item? And any further discussion from the board?
Well, just one, I guess, the California Department of Education publications. So do they no longer have management advisories, or what? Is that their, I mean, or is it just because it came out in the different? Are we gonna see that on every single one, hopefully not just with that edit?
Well, I took a double take when I saw that as well. I haven't seen management advisories on the other policies I've worked on, but it was excluded from this one.
Board policy AR 5144, discipline.
So our district has had a discipline policy in place, and it was revised in 2013. And this policy was revised at that time to really, support alternative means for discipline. And the current revisions at this time reflect what we need to do with the local control accountability plan, which is to address school climate, specifically engagement, and also to make sure that we are providing a positive intervention for students that is aligned with, whatever is happening with them behaviorally. So it really reinforces what we had previously revised, and it provides actually some more clarifying language and a little bit more forthrightness. So for example, in the first line, instead of it saying the Board of Trustees desires, it's that we're committed to providing a safe and supportive and positive school environment. And so you will see that on page 165 is where the bold and underline addresses the local control and accountability plan and the goals set forth, and that we would have goals in that plan for improving school climate.
Questions on this item?
And I add one more comment, I just apologize. The regs of this policy just list a lot of the interventions more specifically that are outlined on the first page of the board policy. So I wanted to make sure that I provided that connection.
Any comments from the public?
Yes, I do. Charles Sean, OEA president. Looking on the bottom of page 165, and it's really has not been clear to me how the district's going to provide a safe, non-discriminatory school environment for transgender and gender non-conforming students. And I do hope that we have some type of a committee to take a look at that. I know that we talked about that, Kathy. But I want to make sure we have that so that all students, including those students, feel safe at school. So we're looking forward to working with the district on that.
Any other comments from the public? Further discussion from the board?
No, I just want to say that I really appreciate the regs, how there's a lot of, tactics, techniques added that are really trying to help kids in a really positive way to try to work through a lot of these issues. Read the list before, it is much more recess restriction, detention, things like that, and there's a lot more, trying to promote good behavior rather than punish bad behavior approach in here, which I kind of like as an overall theme.
Okay. Thank you for that discussion. And our last item for discussion is suspension and expulsion due process.
So this policy as well was revised in 2013, and quite a bit of work was done at that time to build the policy to reflect fair, consistent enforcement of the suspension and expulsion of students. So what you see in the additional revisions to the policy as it comes forward this year is once again to reflect and align with the requirements of the local control accountability plan that we will be reporting annually on the suspension and expulsion rates related to school climate. The first page of the board policy, I want to point out that the second paragraph is not bolded, it is underlined. And the underline is an error. That is in our current policy as it is. So there's no change there. What's below that is bold and underlined was actually in the regulations and has been moved to the front page of the board policy. So that is more a reorganization. There have been some ed code updates in this policy, and the language we had in this policy in some areas, and it's just been reorganized to be more concise for clarity. For example, on page 2 of the board policy, at the bottom, it talks about students will not be suspended or expelled for truancy, tardiness, or absenteeism. We had that below, the wording was just updated. As we move through the policy, on page 4, for example, we have updated the language regarding parental attendance. Previously, within this policy, you'll see that there is more of a may and it's more of a shall, that parents will be partners in this process. And just emphasizing the confidentiality of student records as we are seeking parents to participate. And page 5 is where we talk about the local control accountability plan and also the presentation to the board on the outcome data. I'll stop there.
Okay. Questions from the board?
On page 176, the beginning of the first paragraph, can we require parental attendance?
We need to make an effort, and I do believe it is required, according to ed code, that parents attend.
I had a couple of questions, Kathy. So on page 177, I think you answered my question, but when it says superintendent designee shall annually present to the board a report of the outcome data, is that part of the local control accountability plan that we're going to approve every year, or what method is that reporting supposed to take place?
It doesn't identify the actual method of how it's reported. It just states that the board would be provided with that information. It could be in an update, it could be in the local control plan, it could be at a board meeting.
So we've not decided how to necessarily do. Okay. And then my second question was on, I guess on page 1. when it talked about, a student may be expelled only when his or her behavior relates to a school activity, I thought, so if there's bullying that happens, like on social media or something like that between students, we have no recourse if it's not at school? I thought we.
We do, we actually do. And with that, I could point you to the regs, because it's defined in Ed Code with regard to that specifically. And I took a double take on that as well. So let me point you to page 185, I believe it's 183. In 183, the bold and the underline emphasizes that as defined in Ed Code, that the electronic act is defined as originating on or off the school site. So if it originates outside of school, but it's impacting the school activities, which is defined 2 paragraphs up, that it's affecting the students, and it's a pervasive, severe or pervasive, and it's affecting the student's physical or mental health, then yes, the school can respond.
That just seems to not line up.
Yeah, so generally speaking, there does have to be a nexus to student. So we have to have some connection. And the previous policy creates the nexus by saying, well, if the student's affected by it, or if it comes to or is generated, then that's the nexus. But you can't just blatantly go out and discipline a student for doing something over the media if there's absolutely no nexus.
But if it's affecting them at school,
That's the nexus.
then,
Yeah.
those are my questions. Any comments from the public on this item?
Carol Shannon, President. I just hope there's ongoing communication through our school web pages about the importance of parents intervening. Maybe even some parent nights to talk about this, because I just have seen it in just my nieces and nephew trying to deal with it. And it's tough because there's a lot going on in social media, and I think they get carried away and they don't realize the effects or what can happen when you post certain things that weren't meant to harm anyone. So I think that our parents need to become more partners with us in this. So I look forward to working with the district and figuring out how we can help our parents, because this is really big. There's a lot going out there, and I think our kids aren't quite aware of how it's going to affect them later on in life as well.
Other comments from the public? Okay, and further discussion from the board on this item? Okay, for discussion. We have an information item, Fund 40 Expenditures Summary Report, that is for information only. Any comments from the board or public on this information item?
Thank you.
I think, you know, the only comment I have is that I think it might be worthwhile for us to consider whether we also do all the checks and we, just like, you know, if we do the status report or going forward, strategies and the rest of the items, I guess.
Board reports. Members of the board that have a report. Yeah. It's been a great summer.
Survive, don't forget.
Seeing none, superintendent.
Well, thank you. So, first of all, I'd like to say welcome to our 2 new directors. I know that some of you had an opportunity to see and meet me and officially say that. So, Jen Goodman is our new director of special services and personnel, and Raymond Moore, our new shared technology director with Nevada. So, welcome. We appreciate having you both jumped in and started like the next day and hit the ground running, so we appreciate it. We're looking forward to the opening of school, obviously, and we've been doing a lot of work to prepare for that. And I'd say a bulk of it has been in the personnel office, and again, back to Jen has helped us assemble the rest of the office staff, and they're now on board. I think it was last week. Yep. So we are moving through a number of hirings, both certificated, which we've done a lot of work on, and now classified, and we still have a little bit more to do. And we have, obviously tonight, completed one significant one that has to do with the principal at Wagner, so that'll be good. We can move some things forward there. I also want to thank Ed, the maintenance staff, and all of his staff for making the district office possible and the move. It's a big accomplishment. We sort of worked our way abruptly into that with a special board meeting last time, but Ed and his staff and all of the district office staff, a lot of clerical people, went through their second move this time back into the building. And it was quite an accomplishment to everybody in here, but well worth it. And we are working on putting together some type of a little ribbon cutting ceremony. That's our next task. We're going to be surveying board members on their availability, see if we can pull something like that off. So that's still in the works. But thank you to all staff for making all of this move and sort of articulation into the new district office successful. I think, thank you. I think I've covered that.
Okay. Future agenda items? Fields? Any other future agenda items?
Well, I kind of like what Julie said about just, maybe just a refresh or a restart on where we are with our facilities projects. So I don't know if we're waiting for the results of the climate study, or an energy audit, or where we are with just kind of a refresh.
Right, you know, seeing the amount of money we have in the balance there, and, you know, we sort of after phase one, we're sort of in the middle of phase one, for things to move that as a board. Sink it all into the fields.
Open it.
Okay.
Can't do that.
We have reached a time where we can adjourn.
I'd like to make a motion, we adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion.